February in the year 2021. My name is Christopher Jones, welcoming you to another edition of Lunch Break. Of course, it's February, and this is the commencement of Black History Month. Today on the program, we will be having Miss Gita Edmond, as well as Member of Parliament Natasha Singh Lewis, and we will be sharing in the discourse trying what happened in the National Assembly just last week. As you would know, Ms. Gita Edmond tabled two motions in the National Assembly. One seek to have a COI happen as a result of the prison unrest at the Lusignan prison, and the other as it relates to the Henry boys, the two youngsters, including Harish Singh, who was brutally murdered in the Mahaika Borbis region. Both motions came up for debate last Thursday in the National Assembly. However, the People's Progressive Party Civic, using its majority in the House, refused to have a COI into the investigation into the unrest at the Lusignan prison. As well, the Speaker of the National Assembly disallowed the motion on the Henry boys and Harish Singh to be heard. A pleasant good afternoon, Gita. A pleasant good afternoon, Natasha. Welcome to Lunch Break.
Good afternoon.
Right. Gita, we're not hearing you. Your microphone is on? Is it better now? All right, so Natasha, we'll get back to Gita just when she gets the audio system started out there. Now, as I mentioned before, it's the first day of February, and of course, it's the commencement of Black History Month. But I know yourself as a Muslim, today is also a significant day in the calendar of our Muslim brothers and sisters.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for having me today. Today is a really special day for all of us in the Muslim world. Today is World Hijab Day 2021. And I want to share quickly, while Gita is getting herself to come back, a little bit about that. So the headscarf that I'm wearing is not necessarily hijab. When we talk about hijab, we talk about modesty in dress, modesty in speech, and modesty in our actions. And I want to remind all of us, because in this particular time in our history in Guyana, we have to focus on the actions of the Muslims in this country. And so while we focus on the morality and the good actions that comes with the hijab, I want our viewing audience to know that Islam is pure. Islam is a religion, but it is us who do what is contrary to what is taught. And so I want to wish everyone a happy World Hijab Day, and I pray that Almighty God will give us guidance to be morally upright and to enjoin what is good and forbid what is wrong.
Happy Hijab, is that?
Hijab.
All right. Well, how is that spelled? What's the spelling?
Hijab or J. Hijabi.
All right. So outside of observing those, is there any ritual or anything like that start happening?
Well, the thing is, the World Hijab Day was established to bring awareness to Muslim women and what happens. You know, there's a phobia, especially in the US, we've seen for Muslim people. And World Hijab Day was set aside as a special awareness session for people to understand what hijab means for us as Muslim.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Natasha. I don't know if Gita is back with us. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. All right. So as well too, today is the 1st of February, and of course it commences Black History Month. And of course, the world over will be doing significant things in the Black community to highlight, particularly those persons who created a lot of what we know, these amenities that we now currently enjoy. And of course, on my Facebook page, I started this morning a series of postings that will be had throughout the entire month of February. Natasha, is Gita is back? All right. So, well, the operators will signal us when Gita is back with us. So, Natasha, let's start the discourse with you. And in fact, before we even get to the subject matter, we want to quickly bring to the viewers' attention what is currently happening as we speak in the National Assembly. I mean, yourself and I, we were just part of the Zoom link that allows us to view what is happening in the Parliament. And as we speak, today is a committee meeting of the Public Accounts Committee. Of course, the Public Accounts Committee is chaired by the opposition. It's chaired by Member of Parliament, Mr. David Paterson. And today is one of those committee meetings. Tashi, if you can share with the viewers what is happening there, based on what you picked up when you, I don't know what time, if you were able to join the Zoom from the inception, I should ask as well.
Actually, Chris, I was not in the Zoom. I was just following the chat. I know that my colleagues, I want to say this upfront based on the conversation I'm following. I want to say to our viewers that you have placed the confidence in the APNU AFC. And I can tell you that we all have great confidence in the chairmanship of David Paterson, and we will support him till the end of what is happening there. I have confidence in Doretta and Ganesh and German. We have a very strong team. I want our viewers and listeners to know this. We have an excellent team on the Public Accounts Committee in Parliament, and the PPP is afraid of that, and they want to dismantle that team. And so they're making every effort to get a shot at David Paterson, to remove him from the chairmanship of that committee, but that will not happen because that's a committee that is given, the chairmanship is given to the opposition, and we will take that to the end of this Parliament.
Yeah, excellent. Right. So just a quick note to the viewers there. So essentially, Mr. David Paterson, who is the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, earlier this morning at one of those PAC meetings, the People's Progressive Party civic members who comprise of, amongst other persons, Gail Teixeira and Juan Edghill, table a motion of no confidence in the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, which is Mr. David Paterson. And of course, a debate question arose as to whether or not at the level of the PAC, which is a committee and not a full house of the assembly, if they have the authority to hear such a motion and as well vote on same. After a lengthy debate, questions and answer in which was facilitated by the clerk of the National Assembly, Mr. Isaacs, Mr. David Paterson recused himself as chairman of the committee, which will pave the way for one of the other APNU AFC members to take the chair. Those persons comprise of Ganesh Mahipal, Mr. German Figueira, and Ms. Jarita Finance, of which none of the three opted to take the chair. So therefore, the Public Accounts Committee, as we speak, is currently without a chair, and as such, no proceedings could be had without a chair. They are currently still in the Parliament. They have taken a few minutes away from the chambers. I'm told that they should be back in chambers about 1 o'clock today, thereabout, if they have not gone back there yet. And of course, this afternoon, on the afternoon rush, our colleagues will be able to update you in terms of what concluded there at the Public Accounts Committee. So some strange new development. And you know, Tasha, when you think about it, is that essentially David Paterson, an engineer by profession, by trade, is qualified to look and see into many of the projects happening currently in all of those ministries and government agencies. So as chairman, he is strategically placed to identify and find all of the crookery that could be unearthed. And that is why you see this push, this move by the People's Progressive Party Civic to oust him from that chair, because, you know, to use the Guyanese slang, David Patterson as chairman in the Public Accounts Committee will skin them up, as the Guyanese slang would say.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
But
All right, so
going
definitely we will continue to monitor that situation and obviously update it. Yeah, let her do it. All right, great. So we're about to get Geeta back with us. So Natasha, let's start the discourse. Last week in the National Assembly, last Thursday, I can't do that. Yeah, last week in the National Assembly, we had two motions which were tabled by the APNU AFC through Ms. Geeta Edmond. One of which spoke to having the House call on the administration to bring about a commission of inquiry as it relates to the unrest at the Lusignan prison that led to the death of prisoners and the injuries of multiple others. And then the other motion dealt with the Henry boys, the youngsters who were killed there in the Mahaica Berbice region, and Harish Singh. Your take on the PPP not allowing the motion on the Lusignan unrest to have a COI had into what unfolded there?
Chris, we have to put this thing into context for our viewers to understand. We know exactly what happened, what transpired, because we were in the back dams from the beginning. From the first day, we were in the back dams. And we are of the opinion that the Guyana Police Force did not do a thorough investigation. And so the trumped up charges that, the arrest that they have brought against three junkies, as my colleague MP Jordan would say, they brought charges against three junkies. That was strategic, and I want our viewers to understand this. When the police force would have charged 3 persons for the murder of the Henry boys, they knew through the PPP that there is a motion, because our motion was filed long before our private member day, and it was slated for us to debate, and they have played, I can't use no other word to describe it. They have played with that motion for so long until they found 3 junkies, in my opinion, not related, has no clue because of what they have said on camera in relation to the Henry murder. And so when they would have done that, it would have given the Speaker of the National Assembly the opportunity to say to us that this motion cannot be heard. This motion cannot go through. So what are we left with? Every step of the way we are left hanging because of a dishonest, fraudulent government who does not want to give us an equal opportunity to have justice, to seek justice for the Henry family. Chris, every step of the way, we are going to stay with that family to ensure that they receive justice for the Henry boys. And you know what is very strange? Our motion does not speak to the Joel and Isaiah alone. Our motion spoke to Harry Singh, and nobody has been charged for Harry Singh murder, but yet we are told that the motion cannot go through. Now, you must understand, our viewers, where that is going. Isn't that discrimination? Now, I don't know what else to call it. And at the highest level, the highest forum of our system, we're not going to have justice for the Henry boys, it appears. But we will continue to ensure that we fight equally strong for justice to be done to the family. Now, Chris, while we talk about what has happened in Parliament last Thursday, it's very disgusting that the PPP member of Parliament, Joseph Hamilton, who was himself making his little presentation on the, I think he was presenting on the Lusignan motion, and he made some very derogatory remarks about the Henry family. Chris, it broke my heart. We were all there. And I am not sure that the member knew that the Henry family was in the lobby and paying attention to what was happening in the National Assembly. And when he ventured out to make those derogatory remarks about Joel and Isaiah, the mothers were there and they broke down into tears that slowly became anger, and they walked out. And when we went down to see them, we decided to have an audience. We decided to apologize on behalf of Hamilton and his craziness, because he doesn't know better. We know that he doesn't know better. And so we decided to apologize to the family, especially the mothers of those two boys. And what we saw happen, I mean, by now the video is out. We saw Sister Simonette, who lost consciousness for a brief moment at the step of the building at the Arthur Chung Convention Center. And we were able to get the paramedics to get her up, and we had her there for a bit. But because I would have been in contact, and I stayed in contact with, I call her now Auntie Gail, because I kind of know a lot about what's happening there. I asked the paramedics, I said, that might be the mother who lost consciousness, but please test this mother blood pressure for me. And what we saw there, it's only God's intervention that Gail did not collapse. Gail's hypertension issue came forefront for us to see. It was so high, we were all scared of what would happen to Gail. And Chris, this conversation brings me back. I mean, I might get some licks for speaking about the photograph that was taking its round on social media yesterday. But you see, when things happen, we have to take emotions out of it. We have to speak to the facts, and we have to put it into context. When we are, I don't want to say we, but when families like the Henrys are placed in situations like this, where they are deliberately left without a family member, you are breaking the bond in that family. And so many things are happening to that family. So when you want to paint a portrait like that, you don't just come up and feel and paint. There must be a context, and you must be a responsible person. And I'm not going to say much to it, but if we take a look at the family structure of the Black family, we ought to know when it's a sensitive issue, and we ought to know what you are provoking. You understand? And I thought about it. What about if we painted Gail's family portrait without her son? What would they say? We are encouraging racism? Man, we need to put this thing into context, you know, and what we do as a government, as a country, what we do to people emotionally. The family structure is under attack, like it or not, in Guyana. And we're not going to talk about these taboo issues, you know. Racism is a taboo issue in this country, and it breaks my heart that there are young people involved in it. But Chris, I've said a mouthful. I'm sure you want to get Gita in.
Yeah, opportunity now to welcome back Gita. Could you hear us now, and could we hear you? Gita? Oh my, it appears that we got the same problem. I don't know. Gita, we want to hear from Gita. All right. Tell you what I'm going to do, Gita. I'm going to send another device to you very quickly. and you will be able to join us from there. All right, so just stay tuned, and I'll send it up to you. Natasha, so meanwhile, we will have to continue this.
I'm very comfortable doing that, Chris.
Yeah, is that, I see Gita flash. Yeah.
I can hear her, Chris.
Right. No, but but Tasha, you actually went on to what would have been the final discourse, which was essentially the portrait that was painted by the artist yesterday. And
I'm
indeed, as you
sorry.
rightfully mentioned, is that it triggered it triggered so much emotions across the country and so forth. And so there was well, justifiably so, in terms of person's reaction. In fact, I don't know if by chance I triggered the entire thing, because yesterday morning I first made the post when I saw the portrait, and then within a few minutes I saw everybody essentially took the image, and they had their own views, similar views of mine that I shared, because it was very offensive. But one or several persons actually put it in this context, because persons were or are essentially looking at the artists, but some persons at the same time are saying that, you know what, artists, when they paint or they do poetry, is actually what is happening in society, is what they capture in poetry, in dance, in drama, in art. And subconsciously, could it be that the artist actually captured what is happening currently in society, right? So he painted that, in which he saw the first family, very neatly attired, and here it is, the image of the black mother with the baby, who seems to be on her knees, and she's looking up for help. And in that image, there is the absence of the black father. And similarly, you have the little girl with the bag looking up, appears for help, and it appears that the bag is open and she's begging for anything that she can get. And as I said before, is that artists, whether through poetry, through dance, through art, and different expression, they capture what is happening in society. And many times before, yourself, many of us have been ad nauseum speaking about the elephant in the room, in which no one wants to address. Everybody knows that there is a problem, but no one wants to address it, because of fear of being labeled inciting or racist, or whatever the case be. No one wants to address the elephant in the room, but everyone knows that it's there. So essentially, the poetry, the artwork that came out yesterday allowed those expressions from people who saw this image, how the artists captured it, and they were able to put their perspective out there. But indeed, I think it was it you that says that the national conversation on race in Guyana has not happened. No one wants to address it. Everybody believes that you just sweep it under the carpet and it will go away, and it doesn't work. And I say that because I know you work in the Ministry of Social Cohesion, which was set up by His Excellency President David Granger, which allows for the various ethnicity in Guyana to have a space and place in which they can sit and speak to each other, to confront the very issues, the challenges that confronts communities, whether it is economic development, or whether it's development of certain communities as opposed to others, and so forth. And when you juxtapose what is happening now in Guyana, you look back at what the APNU-AFC did in terms of setting up that Ministry of Social Cohesion, and you see sense. You see sense in that initiative. Your views?
Absolutely, absolutely, Chris. I want to take you back to 2019, early 2019, moving into early 2020. The Department of Social Cohesion would have started the conversation on racism in Guyana, and we would have only been able. A lot of people ask, but why now? Why not before? But we could not have started the conversation without knowing what's happening in our communities. And so we went around this entire country, every administrative region, every sub-district of the regions, to find out from people what they think about social cohesion, what they envisage for the country. And they said a lot of things to us. Out of that, we developed a specific training that is called Education and Diversity in Our Country. I can't remember the specific name, but let me tell you what happened there. We were able to recognize, and we started with the teachers in the secondary schools. We did a pilot, and the social studies teachers we targeted specifically. And we wanted them to understand where this matter of racism in our country lies, and what is their input in the system. And for every consultation we would have done and every training we would have done, at the end of the training, people are saying, but you know, everything we know and we practice now in relation to racism is what somebody said. It's not necessarily what is in us. We also found that any one of the religious grouping would have said to us that God forbids racism. He forbids people being against each other because of their ethnicity, because of their race, because he made them different and they're supposed to live together. And we saw all of those things. And then we said, you know what? This is an excellent idea because we now have the research, we have hands-on information that we know about, and we started a program called Social Cohesion in Action. When we could not go out because in March and April we had the pandemic upon us, we started an on-air program called Social Cohesion in Action. And we started to address the issue of social cohesion because we recognize that the Ethnic Relations Commission is limited in their mandate, or I don't know if they find that convenient, but they did not start the conversation. Let me say to you, under the APNU AFC government, the ERC did absolutely nothing for Guyana, absolutely nothing. And I have no apologies for that. They did absolutely nothing. So don't come and have a video conferencing conversation with Kit Nascimento telling me nonsense and think that you, because you support the government that is in place now, that you are making great strides in ethnic relations in Guyana. That is utter nonsense. And I have no apologies for that. We started the conversation. We put structure in place. We put things that Guyanese people can go to. Tell me with that issue of the portrait, who is going where to lodge a complaint or to start a conversation or to educate our young ones on the real concept of what's going on there? Who is doing that? Government has a responsibility in this. Ask them what they're doing. They are lost. They are out of touch with what's happening in our country, Chris.
To join us back now. So if she's there, Geeta, are you here? Yeah, we will definitely got to do a special edition. We will have to dub it a lot of time with Geeta. Yeah, when we get all of the bugs out of the system. All right. So Tasha, we said a mouthful on the portrait. I actually invited a Guyanese who is now a resident in Ohio, studying at the University of Guyana. Unfortunately, because of class schedule, she was unable to join us today. But I'm still hopeful to get her on Thursday, because essentially she was one of those artists involved in drama, in poetry, you name it. She was a part, and she too expressed her disgust with the portrait that surfaced yesterday. And of course, she put it in context, as I mentioned before, that artists paint, they do poetry, they do dance, they do skit to depict what is happening in society. So subconsciously, the artist that painted the portrait, in his subconscious mind, he painted, he captured, he captured what is happening currently in the in the country, rightfully put so. So I want to turn us back to the motion on the Henry Boys. Now, we mentioned to the point that, listen, based on Guyana's law, once a death, whether it's by accident or otherwise occurs, it requires one to do a COI into the circumstances surrounding the death of a person or individuals. And here it is at the prisons, Lusiktan prison, in which prisoners were shot and killed. Multiple others were injured. And the motion by the APNU AFC Gita, Chandan, Edmund, seek to have a COI to investigate the circumstances surrounding the death of these prisoners. It is not requesting millions of dollars for anything, just to have a team of experts locally to sit, to listen, to take statements, and to put out a report. And it boggles the mind as to why something as simple as that cannot occur. And you look back under the David Granger administration, and there are so many precedents. At one time, people used to refer to former President Granger as the COI president, because once an incident of any sort occurred, he mentioned that there's a COI or an inquest into it. And I take you back to even the killing of former minister under the People's Progressive Party Civics at the Osar, himself and his siblings that were murdered, and under their administration, under their watch, and they did not even launch an inquest into the circumstances surrounding the killing. So that in itself kind of give you an insight to the people. If they wouldn't even investigate a heinous murder of one of their own sitting minister and his siblings, why would they want to do an investigation into the prisoners? A sad situation indeed.
Indeed. But Chris, we must let our viewers know and our supporters and all of Guyana must know that even though the motion was not allowed because of some law that the speaker would have quoted that it did not give Kemraj Ramjatan, one of our leaders, the opportunity to share with him, just in case, he's not a learned lawyer, what are some of the possible solutions to the matter. He denied Honorable Kemraj Ramjatan the opportunity to speak to him after he would have made his decisions. And, that leads to, I can't say it no other way, the biasness of and I put that in uplifted comma, the biasness of the speaker is something else that we also need our supporters to see what's going on. And Sharad would have zoomed in a lot over the weekend on what's happening there. But Chris, I want the Henry family to know that we are going to stay with them, and we are going to do a lot of things coming shortly in relation to the death of those two boys. And we're not going to let it die. We're not going to let this one go under the rug. Chris, I wanted to say to our viewers that we need to keep these two mothers in our prayers. We know that I have not lost a child. I've said that a million times, and so I don't know how it feels. But because I link very often with Gail and Simonette, I know how they are feeling. You understand? And their mental health, I'm worried about, Chris. Gail in particular, her physical health, I'm worried about. When these things happen, she's unable to control her hypertension, and we know what that can do. That's a silent killer, and we need to keep them in our prayers. I want to say on our program, as a coalition member of parliament, I want to say I am really grateful to iPadagy for completing one full program of counseling with the Henry families. I was made to understand that this first program has been completed, and we are awaiting further communication on where we will go further on this. I know from sessions speaking with Gail in particular that every time the counselors are making headway into the situation, there is something that the government is doing that causes the family to drop back in their original state. Christopher Jones, what are they doing to the minds of these family? And I want to go back to history. I'm talking now, the present. These are two Black families, Chris. What are they doing to their minds? They don't want healing. They don't want justice. And call it what it is. It is racist what they're doing to these families. And it really bothers me. And I'm sorry I'm so worked up, but it gets to me. And so while we sit down and talk nonsense about a photograph or how we feel and who we want to lash about that photograph, let us look here. Let us look for the lessons of this fraudulent government, what they're doing to these families, Chris. We don't have to go back and read history book. This is before us. This is justice that is deliberately being denied, Chris. It's nothing else. And we need to find out why justice is deliberately being denied. We will find out.
Exactly. All right. So, all right. Thank you very much, Tasha. I think the operators have indicated that we got Geeta somewhere on stand. Why I'm interested to get Geeta on, because as the move of the motion, I know a lot of work was put into the preparation of this motion. And mind you, this motion was tabled in the National Assembly subject to election in October of 2020. In October of 2020, and only last week, that motion came up. And that is why high anticipation for the debate to be had. And of course, the Henry boys, particularly the mothers, they have been attending the parliament ever so often last year with the hope that the motion will come up for debate. Operator, I'm seeing Ms. Geeta in the background. Is she there? If you can bring her in now. All right. There she is.
Hello? Am I being heard?
Yes.
They actually, we have you, but you're frozen up. You know what? Okay, still come. Look, pull. All right, so viewers, what we're going to do, I'm going to literally just make way and have Geeta join me alongside. So Geeta, just we get this chair here. Yeah. Come on, right. Come. All right. Come. Right. Bring us in back, operator. Overseas. Well, I'll allow Geeta to explain. So, as it relates to the motion for the Henry boys, let's start there. What was the objective you wanted to achieve in that motion?
All right. Good day. Good day, Chris. I think your show is one of the trending shows on social media, so kudos for that. I join with Natasha and wishing the Muslim community happy Hijab Day. As Chris, as you are aware, the APNU AFC tabled two motions in October. The first one dealt with the calling for an investigation into the death of several prisoners at the Lusignan prison. Arising out of that, there was an unrest which resulted in several prisoners being shot, and two of them subsequently died. That motion was debated on, and unfortunately, it's really sad that that motion was defeated. It was brought on humane grounds. It was brought by a family who has pleaded with us to call for justice. They're of the view that there is a massive cover-up in the death of their brother, Earl Graham. Why is there a cover-up? They have in their possession photographic and video evidence which contradicts what is recorded on the registration of death. What they have in their possession is that he was shot in his back. And the question is, if a man is shot in his back, it means he posed no threat. He posed absolutely no threat. Yeah. So they wanted to know who is responsible, who gave the order, who breached the standard operating procedures. And it was most disappointing. This was a motion that was brought for on humanitarian grounds for justice. Why it happened, how it happened, it touches and concerns human rights. Mm-hmm. Even if the government didn't agree to a formal commission of inquiry, I expected them to show some sort of support and solidarity to the family members. Commit at least to an independent investigation. If it is their brother was wrong, they're prepared to accept that. If it is the prison officers were wrong, then they feel that they should feel the full brunt of the law. And so all they were asking for in that motion was for answer. Think, viewers, put yourself in the place of those family members. And Earl had absolutely no right or no cause or any reason to be in an agitated state. He was due to be released in a mere matter of 4 to 5 days before his untimely demise. So he wasn't in an agitated, he wasn't in a riotous state. So the family wants answers. They want to know, why is it his brother was shot in his back? I mean, I'm not sure the technology as is permits us to show you some of the photographs that we have in our possession, the video recordings, and what is on the registration of death. And so they feel they've been justice from this government. They deserve that much. They deserve answers.
Yeah. I think essentially, Geeta, right there, that point, that's new to me. And I'm pretty sure a lot of the viewers, it was new to them. So essentially, one of the prisoners and killed was expected to be released from prison within 4 or 5 days. Therefore, any individual who knows that he's about to get out of jail in a few days will not, as you mentioned, be in a riotous state.
Or agitated.
Or agitated, exactly. He's just literally packed his bag and waiting to leave. And that is why one could understand and feel the emotion of the families as to why they are calling for an inquest into this. But the PPP, and now it appears, I mean, by virtue of their stance on the motion, it appears that there is some sort of attempt to cover up something, which indeed is sad. All right, so I want you now to walk us through in terms of the motion for Henry Boyce. This matter is nationally, regionally, and internationally, and of course, the calls for justice. We showed the viewers earlier that the mothers of both Joel and Isaiah were at the parliament last Thursday, and what they did not was what agitated the parents and the families was a statement a statement by a sitting PPP minister, Joe Hamilton, in the parliament, in which was viewed as being callous, repugnant, and absolutely distasteful. He stated, and I quote, that here it is in the prison, we're looking at 18 persons who were shot. And Yaal, referring to whoever, probably the folks in Region 5, Yaal block roads and bonfire for 2 persons. And that tripped the mothers, you know. So just walk us through in terms of the motion for the Henry Boys.
All right, thank you. In addition to the minister's comment being repugnant, I think it's very insensitive. So again, as you are aware, I've tabled another motion. When I say I, it is the APNU AFC, which has tabled another motion. It was a motion, well, it is still a motion to condemn the brutal and horrific killing of Joel and Isaiah Henry and Harish Singh. This motion was slated to be debated in December, and then it was deferred to the sitting in January. When it was called the last sitting, the speaker made a ruling. Mr. Ramjatan attempted to make arguments to sort of dispute or to show the speaker that he disagrees with the ruling of the speaker. His arguments were shut down. In my view, I don't think he was duty to express his views or his contentions on the matter. I think he was prepared to lay over precedent where this matter, albeit persons were being debated. We were so prepared. Our list of speakers were so prepared to speak, even if the motion was reformative or modified. Because as you are aware, the killers for Harish Singh have not been charged. So like Chris said, let me walk you through some of the clauses of the motion. So this motion was tabled to condemn the brutal and horrific killing of these teenagers between the period September 6th and 9th. As Natasha said, as Chris said, and as all the other speakers on this particular issue has said, this is not a family issue now. This is a matter of national importance. Chris, if you'll permit me before I get into the substantive issues again, to once again express my deepest and sincerest commiserations to the families of the Henrys and to the Singh. I am a mother, and I'm sure many of you out there can join with me in this experience. And right now, mothers' hearts are bleeding. It is crying for justice. So it is really sad. What I saw that day with the Henry family was very moving. It was very touching. So viewers, let us all try to imagine what not only the mothers, but what the family members, the father, the brother, the uncles, the aunt, the uncles, the entire neighborhood, what they're going through, losing. The Henrys and the Singhs, they're suffering double grief, but their lives were taken away in the most gruesome and barbaric manner. So doing, viewers, try to imagine at this very moment. Try to imagine the sense of insecurity that has now engulfed that community, and maybe not by that community, it's not limited to that community, by extension, all of Guyana. This is after the coalition government would have spent 5 years, long years, restoring public security and confidence. And viewers, between that period, September 6th and 9th, that sense of security left out. And with the way things are happening right now, that sense of security may never return again unless the state induces confidence by condignly pursuing and delivering justice, and they seek to find the real perpetrators of these horrendous crimes. We must join with all citizens who are sad and outraged by this tragic event. Viewers, I'm showing my age now. We all grow up looking at a mini series called Murder She Wrote, featuring Jessica Fletcher. Today, as we remember these fallen teenagers, the question on the lips of every man, child, teenager, every man and woman of conscience is, who wrote these murders? Who are the intellectual authors of these murders? Who really committed these crimes? We see the period of the 6th to the 9th as a period of infamy, where our citizens were killed in the most gruesome and barbaric manner. My colleagues and I, by tabling this motion, we heard the cries of the nation calling for justice, because the real perpetrators must be brought to justice. We cannot allow injustice to continue. So, viewers, the carnival of misery must end. It has to end. In the motion itself, I was asking that the National Assembly recommend to the government to procure and finance the assistance of international expert and competent professionals who can resolve these cases to find the real perpetrators. That the National Assembly condemn the killings of Joel and Isaiah Henry and Harish Singh, and to extend sincerest condolences to the families of the deceased. Before I go on to the other clauses, where is the controversy here? This should not be a political issue. This is a motion tabled for justice. The other clause is to call on the Assembly to continue its earnest investigation to ensure the expeditious justice to the family. So now, any reasonable man, woman, child out there will be asking themselves, why wasn't this motion allowed to be debated? Your guess is as good as mine.
Excellent, excellent. All right, so thank you very much, Geeta. There you have it, viewers. The motion that was put forward by the APNU AFC, tabled by Ms. Chandon Edmond. And of course, as you heard there in terms of the resolve clause, it is nothing controversial, you know, not even having the motion amended to allow the National Assembly, the members of Parliament, to extend condolences to the Henry Boyce family and Harish Singh. Not even that was allowed. And it boggles the mind. Here it is that a motion is before the House. You are saying that some parts are sub judice. We are saying that, listen, let's amend the thing. You know, let's amend the thing and we'll just deal with the part that extend condolences to the family. And that too was disallowed. And as you rightfully mentioned, MP Kemraj Ramjatan, a learned attorney at law, a senior member in the House of Parliament for a number of years, indicated that there are precedents. And he wasn't even allowed to speak.
Yeah.
You know, he was not even allowed to speak. And that's why we said is that, listen, those are dictatorial tendencies that are creeping in or that have creeped in to the National Assembly and many other facets of society in 5 months under PPP. We are in the most dangerous place. Viewers, we will have to leave it there. I will, at some point in time during this week, invite back Ms. Geeta, because I know due to technical problems, she wasn't able to expound to the extent that she would want to. So we will invite Geeta when she has the time to come back with us. Natasha, I would like to thank you very much for being a part of Lunch Break. And of course, as I mentioned before, in terms of what is happening in the National Assembly, as it relates to the Public Accounts Committee, my colleagues at 5 o'clock this afternoon on the afternoon rush, they will pick it up from there. And what is missed will be had in the ring at 8 o'clock this evening with Sherrod Duncombe. On behalf of my two guests, Member of Parliament, Ms. Geeta Chandon Edmond, and Member of Parliament, Ms. Natasha Singh Lewis, I'd like to thank you very much for viewing Lunch Break. Until we meet again, Have a pleasant rest of your day. Goodbye for now.
Enjoy your lunch.